Hi, y'all. This is Grace, and this is Grace After Chaos. I think we all get the chaos right now. There's a ton of things happening in the world, and I think it's all getting to us. So I've been feeling it too. Not only is it a new year, right? We just celebrated January 1st, New Year's, and everyone's making their new resolutions, starting off the New Year's. In numerology, if you believe in that, it's the end of a 9 year cycle. So we're all in transformation and we're all letting go and resetting. So there's just a ton of things going on right now, right? If you believe in zodiac signs, it's Capricorn season. So very much about goals and things like that. So all we can do is get through the chaos, and all we can do is own ourselves, right? How do we ground ourselves? How do we make sure that we're aligned and living the life that we want to live? And then we can think about the impact that we're making on others. So there's a couple books that I remember reading in my 20s that really shaped how I think about how I want to live my life, and it really helped me. So thought I'd share a couple things today. So the first one I read in my 20s, it's called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And there's a couple habits I want to talk about. So you can get this anywhere. The author is Stephen R. Covey. Amazon, I'm sure you could find it on Audible. There's just a lot of good things here. All 7 habits are good, by the way. But the 2 that really stuck with me. One is begin with the end in mind. All right. So I think at the time there were just some things happening in my life where maybe it was career being very demanding and taking me away from my family. And so I fast forwarded thinking about, the last days of my life and any regrets that I would have. And I remember going through the exercise in the book and thinking about, I don't think, anyone on their deathbed would have said, I should have worked more, right? The typical person may not say that. And so what you might say is looking around you, right? And making sure you have those that you love around you, family, friends. Those are the people that maybe mean a lot to you, right? So with that in mind, right, I thought to myself, I don't want to spend so much time that I'm missing out on that, right? And those relationships would suffer. So that's an example of like beginning with the end in mind, right? So how do you want to, at the end, live your life, and looking back, what kind of legacy, what kind of impact did you want to make? And you can look at all areas of your life, right? For yourself, right? Your own goals. And then there's family, there's in your romantic relationships, and then there's maybe wealth, health, community, the world, right? How are you using your own gifts? So there's a lot of different categories that you can think about, like how would you want that to be at the end, right? And I always thought about that, like, yeah, I don't want to have any regrets. I may have all the success or all of these different things, but then what really was important to me, that suffers. And so I'm like, oh, it helped realign me. So I always thought that was a powerful exercise. And sometimes people might think I have a preoccupation with death, but in a way it's healthy, because then I can live my life the way that I would want to if I'm able and lucky enough to make it to the end of my life, right? So that was one thing. And so, even though I make like vision boards and things like that, I'm constantly having to realign myself. Is this who I want to be? Where I'm spending my time, is that what I want to do? So it really does help you hone in. Okay. One of the other habits out of the 7 is sharpening your saw. And so I think this is very relevant for me this year anyways, because we all live such go lives, right? And I've been there, right? With 3 children. I was that soccer mom, just driving everyone everywhere, running myself ragged. My health was suffering. Just doing I felt like everything. And so it's sometimes you have to take care of yourself, because if you break down, then you can't do anything for anyone else. And so sayings like you have to put the oxygen mask on yourself first, right, to help others, or you have to fill your own cup in order to give to others, because you can't pour from an empty cup. So those types of concepts really sunk in with me, because especially as a mom, you just tend to overgive, and then you end up maybe unhealthy or unhappy, right, or just really ragged. So there's seasons of everything, right? So there might be that season where that is your season, but still, right, if you're feeling that you're running yourself ragged, sometimes taking care of yourself would allow you then to take care of other people. The concept with the saw is, if you are tasked with cutting wood, right, a ton of wood, you can't cut with a dull blade. And sometimes you don't want to stop. Like, no, I gotta keep going. I gotta keep going, right? But sometimes if you just stop and take the 10 minutes or so to sharpen your blade, you're actually gonna have an easier time cutting that wood. And you're gonna cut even more wood because you're more effective. So that's the concept behind sharpen your saw. So I've always tried to think of ways to like sharpen my saw, right? It'll make me more effective later. I really, one of my pet peeves is just like wasted time or inefficiencies. So I'm constantly trying to figure out how can I streamline this, make it easier. So, and for those of you who are busy, and have a ton on your plate, find ways to sharpen your saw. I think it's one of the good habits here. And then as far as grounding, ourselves, right, and living the life that, we're hoping to want to live. This is another book that was very impactful for me, Strengths Finder 2.0. So this is by Tom Rath. And again, you can find it on Amazon or Audible or anywhere. So what I liked about this book is that the concept is everyone is born with just innate strengths, right? And everyone's different. You may not have, the same strengths as someone else, and that's okay, because that kind of is something that we're just born with. So there's actually a quiz that you can take to identify what are your top strengths, right? And then you can see your bottom strengths as well. So your top 5, the notion here is that if you were to really make a career, for example, using your 5 strengths, or at least the majority of them, it may feel easy to you and you'll naturally succeed because it naturally comes to you, and you may not even know you're doing it. You may not even know that you're employing your skills, but that it would make it so that it's easy for you, and it just again, the success will come much easier. And maybe it's that, like that saying goes, right, like you'll never work a day in your life if you do something that you enjoy and comes naturally to you. So I think that that's very powerful, because like I know for myself, one of my not one of my strengths is like negotiation or selling, right? So if I was a used car salesman, I would not succeed. I would be the lowest performer there, and I would not be able to sell a car. And in fact, I'd probably dissuade a lot of people from buying a car, because I'd probably just tell them all that's wrong with it and be like, yeah, don't do this. So I'd probably really, really suck. So that's kind of a good example, right? But whereas someone else, they really know how to build that rapport and really negotiate and really, kind of just sell, right? So it's a skill, right? And so yeah, so if you know what your strengths are, it also gets you out of the comparison game, right? Because we all have something to give, and embracing that uniqueness and embracing what you're just naturally good at, it really just builds that confidence and makes you go, okay, I'm gonna stay in my lane, and this is what I'm good at. And a lot of people have made successful careers out of that, right? So again, I look at so many people out there, like there's artists out there who are great storytellers, right? Are they the, greatest, is everyone a Whitney Houston? No, right? But they're great storytellers, and they've made such great careers in music doing that. So I think that is another really, really good thing to remember, right? Is, what are your strengths? And are you using your strengths in some capacity or another? And are you embracing what makes you unique? So these are the things that I'm um, always trying to capitalize on for myself, right? And making sure that I'm staying in, my lane, and using my strengths, and not getting into that comparison game, because that can get really dangerous and really deflate you, right? And so definitely part of the journey that I've been on for many, many years. So yeah, I just wanted to share those a couple resources, since I know that there's a lot of chaos going on right now, and that's all I can think of is, to take care of ourselves, and, um, really ensure that, we're living in a way that we're, you know, feeling fulfilled, right? And that we are giving back in so many ways. And I have so many awesome friends who give back using their strengths, right? Whether it's gathering people, or giving back to the community, and serving others, or using their creativity in so many ways, right? So there's just a lot of great things that come from each of our individual strengths. And so in a world right now that's really hurting and angry and chaotic, hopefully you found some grace in some of what I pointed out, and maybe it'll help you too. All right. So peace out. Love ya. Bye.